Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to another episode of Always Almost There, Day After Show Live. We are here today feeling great to talk about yesterday at All Good Now up in Maryland. I was like, what state were we in again? We had a great time over the weekend at the festival, and we are joined by our good friend Isaac today. Isaac, how are you?
I'm doing incredible. That was a really fun festival, and hope that we're back next year and that Goose is going to come back. And it was great.
I hope so too. That would be excellent. Neil, how are you doing today? How was your weekend?
I'm doing great, man. You know, caught some of this festival, not as much as you guys did. Would have liked to have seen some of those acts because it looked like stupendous all around.
Mm-hmm.
So jealous
and
of
I mean,
you guys.
And Merriweather is an incredible venue. It was my first time being there, and just the whole grounds and using Chrysalis and the main stage was really cool. But it was awesome. But we are here to talk about Goose today. Coming off of the Bonnaroo cancellation, they were ready to go. They were ready to play some music last night. But Isaac, what were your pre-show thoughts yesterday?
I mean, pre-show vibes were definitely a little strange because I'll preface this. Lawrence, very talented band, very good artists, very talented. But for this festival, it didn't mix well.
Yeah.
And I think it was a weird vibe. We were in the pit. So it was a weird vibe of like confused Goose fans and like hippies. Like, what are we just gonna stand around? Like, do we like head bob? Like, what do we do? And then it was like there were a couple like Lawrence, as you coined, theater kids in the crowd who were like singing along to every lyric. So it definitely kind of made a strange vibe going into the show. But I think that worked well because I think expectations were very low for Goose, and I think they smashed through those expectations.
Wow.
Keep them managed. Keep those expectations managed. Yeah, I think it was weird. Lawrence being like, again, I know they're very they're pretty big, but not in the demographic of people that were at All Good Now and ready to see Goose. Everybody was there because how the festival works for those who don't know. Outside of VIP, the majority of the pavilion was first come first serve for seats. So people had been saving seats all day, and so obviously we're there. Waiting for Goose. But by the time Lawrence came on stage, like everyone's just ready for Goose. And it's like, there's one more set to get through. And so people aren't there really to see Lawrence. It was weird to like look around and see like 80% of the people in the pavilion sitting down during music, where like, even, for a band like Pigeons who had played earlier, like people were up and dancing because it fits the vibe. So I would say that's the only complaint I have really about the scheduling of the festival. I think, while Lawrence is technically a bigger band than Mo, I think putting Mo in that pre-Goose slot on the main stage rather than right before Chrysalis would have been better. But
can I ask a question, Ryan?
Yeah.
You're a man who is famous throughout the internet for having varied musical tastes beyond just the boundaries of jam music.
Very much so.
You have such a reputation for it. Like I don't know Lawrence at all. So they are big. Right?
They are
like, what is their genre? What is Lawrence?
The theater kids that you went to high school with who were like really insufferable about being theater kids. So they started a band.
Okay. And that's Lawrence. That's not Goose?
Well, different kind of theater kids.
Okay.
These are the theater kids.
I think Rick is a theater kid. I just want to
different kind of theater kid.
Okay.
But Lawrence is guest starring, or is, I guess the lead singer is actually on television, but she's not in Tires. So
she's not in Tires.
She's not in Tires.
Okay. Well, that has cleared up nothing for me, but thank you for that little segment there.
Context. Here we go. Here's a good one. Melt, but more poppy, and
it sounded a lot like there's some songs that they played that sounded a lot like they came out of High School Musical.
Yeah.
And
got it.
That's the vibe.
That was the vibe.
Okay. All right. Well, we are not.
I love Melt, by the way. Just before we move on,
I love
the mention of Melt, I absolutely love them.
Yes.
Everybody should go see Melt. They're fantastic.
We are not a bashing Lawrence podcast. Despite
no, we're not. I don't think we were bashing Lawrence. We were exploring what Lawrence was for the jam band fan, which I think is appropriate for this podcast.
That's fair.
Yeah. Exactly.
Let's talk about Goose here. Band comes out. Yeah, we got a little. I think it was. I didn't really pay attention, but they had a few before some of the bands, like some of them telling stories about past All Good festivals. So I think we got some Cotter talking about going to the festivals. And then, it was funny, we talk about all the time on this podcast now how Cotter's a wook. And so it was really funny to hear that, and Cotter talking about is that all good all the time? And then Peter came out on stage and said something to the effect of I heard so much about this festival and really excited to be here. And I was like, that perfectly encapsulates the difference between the two of them. Like, Peter did not go to All Good Festival, 15 years ago, but Cotter was probably deep in the campgrounds.
Like, Peter wanted to go, but he maybe had a final that he was studying for.
Right.
And Cotter was selling grilled cheeses in the parking lot. I think that's fair.
Exactly.
May or may not have happened. We'll have to check.
May or may not have happened. Let's dig into the first set here. Let's start things off. We got Salt, Your Directions, and a controversial SOS. But we'll get to that in a sec. Isaac, what do you think of these first three songs here? And that he said three songs.
Sure, but Salt, what a way to start off this show. And then they just opened with a punch. They're like, we're here, we're the headliner, we are ready to perform. Bonnaroo, it didn't mess us up. We're gonna end this festival on a good note. And I love Salt in this spot too. It rips. It's such a good song. And then Your Direction, I'm not a huge fan of the slot for this. I think they had a lot of energy built up over Salt that it just it brought down the energy. And then the SOS intro, was interesting. And then Dawn, that was that brought the energy straight back. The main thing that sticks out for me in this jam is Trevor, just how he's sounding a lot better this tour than I think I've heard him ever. And this was one of the ones that I heard him in the back and it was okay, wow, he's sounding really good this shows. And then Rick had a big peak at the end. That was really insane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like this opener too. This is technically a 3-pack, but this is not a predictable 3-pack at all. And I love the way that this show starts. Salt doesn't do anything crazy. Just 10 minutes of really solid play. Nice interplay from Rick and Peter. And then you get Your Direction, which I'm going to disagree with you, Isaac. I love these early first set Your Directions. And yeah, it doesn't exactly follow up or I guess continue the energy that Salt brought, but I think it was really good for that early first set. And Your Direction was 100% going to be played at Bonnaroo, I think. It was 100% going to be played at Bonnaroo on Friday. And so I think that was a very easy, 8-pointer, if you will.
That was mine.
Neil, did you have it for 8 last night?
Your Direction?
Yeah.
No, I had Hunger Sight for 8 because that seemed like easy money. But
that was my 7.
Easier, you know what was easier money? Your Direction.
Your Direction.
Yeah. Did you pick it?
Did I pick Your Direction? Yeah, it was my 7-pointer.
Oh, okay. All right. Semantics. So yeah, and really cool jam here. I mean, I think this and the Fiddlers one, I like the way that they're approaching the jam, very laid back, and I think it fits this early first set kind of stretching our legs kind of vibe. Neither have done anything super exciting, but both have been great. And then the segue into SOS was really cool. Basically what they did, for people who haven't listened or not sure, they basically did the first part, the SOS part of SOS, instrumental. So they played the chords and did the changes and then went into Dawn part of SOS. So I believe, Peter does not clearly based on the tracking of it, but I believe that they played all of SOS. It was just they didn't sing the first couple of verses. But then we get Jam Vehicle. This is actually, I realized this is the first proper SOS since February.
It's
we
not
had
a proper
the
SOS.
by
I would
proper,
not use the word proper to describe it, but
yeah, you're right.
We'll get
right.
into that.
No, you're right. But this is the first full one since February. We had Idaho, which was 9 minutes, and in the encore, and that was it. So weird to see this song on the shelf for so long. I feel like it's been in heavy rotation. So I think that was kind of top of mind for me when they started the jam. I was like, was that just a winter tour thing, or are they going to keep doing stuff with this? And I'm very happy that they did. Really solid, kind of upbeat jam, pretty much in the same vein as the first two that they played in February.
Yeah. So want to say a couple things here. Overall, just thinking about the show and zooming out, the theme of the night was not playing songs anyone expected. Abdu says that is true to a point, right? There were a couple songs we absolutely were certain they were going to play in Your Direction and Dustin Hoffman. But then there was like a whole bunch of things that nobody was expecting at all at a festival. And then the other thing I kind of want to say, zooming out about this show, is that the quality of the set list is insane for a festival. Yeah. Absolutely insane. And, this is not unheard of. They have kind of done this before in these 2-set festival sets where they're headliners or whatever. They go out there and play these really fantastic shows. And set list wise, this is about as good as it's going to get at a Goose show. Just going to say that before we dive into all of this stuff. And in terms of the songs, maybe some of them you're not getting, the oomph out of them that you would expect in a regular show. So Salt comes in at about 11 minutes and 11 seconds. Really cute there that Peter tracked that at 11:11. And that is an excellent opener. I do agree with Isaac, though. If they were kind of swapped, it would have fit a little bit better. I like Your Direction as the first song, and then you put the pedal to the metal with Salt. That would be cool. But still, an excellent 1-2 punch. I am not going to complain about these 2 songs opening a show. They're fantastic. And I just love Your Direction. I'm not sick of it yet. I won't be for a while now, and I will continue to enjoy the hell out of it when they play it. All right. SOS. I've got words about this. So
here we go.
It is not a standard SOS. It's not a proper SOS. Of course, they didn't sing any lyrics, and some people have said on this podcast, if they don't sing the lyrics, they have not played it at all. Just going to say that.
Okay,
you have said that on this podcast.
You're doing some playing around with the truth here and stretching of the truth, because they did sing and play the majority of the song. Just the one.
I can think of another instance when they did that. That's really funny that you say that.
No, they didn't actually. If they had run through all of the chord changes of the verses and the chorus of Echo of a Rose in the Royal Oak Rosewood, yes, I know exactly what the fuck you're talking about here. Pardon my French, Isaac.
Okay. Okay. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, I have not, shattered the curtain of hypocrisy here yet. But in any case, continuing on, I don't even think this is SOS at all, really. I mean, it's. And a lot of it, well, actually, I want to say one thing that's an absolute truth and not a passive aggressive jab at you. The way that this starts is sick. It is like an interlude for the first minute or so.
Interlude 4.
Yeah, interlude 4, jive 4, jive nanigans. I mean, you can call it all whatever you want. Jive SOS. It's more that than it is 4. SOS. So that part was really cool. So again, talking about this show and how they prepared for it, how they thought about it, they were coming with surprises and treats in the show. You got something really, really cool in an incredibly unique version of SOS and then Dawn. And then so the tracking is going to be debatable for a while now. I think what's important, Ryan, and I actually do agree with you that we're going to just call this thing SOS because I think that's the reasonable thing to do.
That's all we need.
I think that's the reasonable thing to do. I mean, the centerpiece of what was played was obviously the Dawn section of SOS, but precedent is when they play the SOS, it's all one thing. But what was I going to say? What was the last thing that I was going to say about this? Yeah, I don't know. It remains to be seen if they ever do it like this again. This is not worth healthy internet debate until they do this a second or third time this summer, which they're not going to do. They don't have time to. They don't have enough shows.
I mean, they don't have enough. They absolutely could do this again, based on the song rotations.
I said 2 more times. Yeah, they absolutely can do it one more time. Based on the song
rotations right now, they could do this 2 more times because there's really no rules on song rotations right now. You're getting so many songs played on like every 2-3 shows, songs on the shelf for 15 shows. It's crazy. But let's move on. Speaking of songs you don't expect,
maybe it was a mistake. Maybe Rick forgot the lyrics. He's done it. He skipped entire verses of songs. It was bound to be a time when he skipped a whole entire song. I'm just saying.
Maybe he forgot the words to Echo during the Royal Oak Rosewood.
Now we're on.
Maybe that's it.
Yeah, we're drawing connections. All right, we should talk about the rest of the show. I've talked enough.
And the fact that we are still talking about that stupid thing over 3 years after it happened is just.
I mean, I can't help the fact that there are parallels. Hey, all right. Listen, there's no bounds to how annoying we can be. The internet knows. Bisco Twitter knows how annoying we can be now.
Oh, we're going to get there. Second half of the first set last night, Redbird, Dustin Hoffman running up that hill. Very surprised to hear Redbird this early in the show. This is not the placement you expect for it. This is also, relatively long-ish gap for the song. I feel like maybe not, but maybe I just have been expecting them to play it for a while, and it's kind of been underperforming this year so far. But this is, we've been talking about segments on this tour so far, and this is a pretty fantastic segment here. You get a lot of nice groove or funk jamming, which we heard at Soundcheck, which actually we'll talk about later because we need to talk about that. There were parts of the Redbird Jam. It took me a second to figure out what it reminded me of, but it's Chateau Jam. There's one part of this Redbird Jam that's very one specific section of the Chateau 1 Jam. And then, Dustin crushed and then very fast running up that hill. They did the song, looked at the clock, and we're like, yeah, we need to end the set here. But the crowd loved getting the Dustin and the running up that hill. Yeah, I agree with you, Chip McGillicuddy. Redbird, look how they massacred my boy. I mean, bring Redbird back. Isaac, what do you think of the second half of the first set here?
Yeah, when they went into Redbird, I think I was initially very excited because I'm wanting a big Redbird Jam because this has been kind of a drought for a while. I feel like the last big version we had was maybe Milwaukee in February, and then last really big version was in Cincinnati. I think this one that needs to get back on the track. So a little bit disappointed that it didn't. And I wish that they would have played this out more because it had some nice little themes going, and I really enjoyed it for a little. But I like the segue into Dustin. I think it had a really good flow of the set, and it makes sense for a first set like that. I feel like that's what you're. And this Dustin is really nice. It's I think it's just one of those jams where the full band is locked in. Rhythm section's great. Cotter just gets in a nice pocket, and Rick just puts on the sauce, and it's going really well. And then running up that hill, I'm a huge fan of this in this slot, but I do have complaints about how they've been playing it recently. I want them to remove the E drums from it because I listened to this one and then listened to the Cincinnati version, and it just took it. It feels soulless almost. Like the Cincinnati version has so much more power to it, and it makes this one feel so much more. It feels dry and bland.
Sorry, for those who are listening, I have various celebratory backgrounds happening because of the strength with which I agree with Isaac. Yes, because also I'm pretty sure the backing tracks are the reason why they kind of stopped at the segue.
Yeah, it was and then the end of the set too of they completely missed that last note, and they didn't end on I feel like they didn't end very strong at the end. I could have had a stronger ending, at least a little bit of a jam. Mm-hmm. To give it to the end and the peak, but
yeah, no, and I understand the allure of wanting to have the cool E drum backing track thing, and again, this is part of Peter's whole exploration of the Ableton and the sequencer stuff. But yeah, just like with Everything Must Go, I like it better when Goose is playing their music.
No, yeah, but I mean, I'm also not mad that they're trying new stuff too,
sure.
Because that's how you grow as a band. Is sure they'll try some new stuff that I'm not a big fan of, but then sometimes they'll this whole Goons thing with everything. They're doing some really cool stuff in that, and so keep trying out new stuff, but not a fan of this one.
There you go.
Well, you two old curmudgeons who yearn for the days of yore of Goose, I say I disagree. I do like this stuff. And Ryan, I will make a point that when they're doing this thing, they are in fact playing their music. It's just not what they've always done. But no, I digress. I mean, I still think that the tune is cool. I think you're right though, Isaac. I'd like to kind of have them kind of dig in and really kind of get their hands dirty with the song, like they have historically. And folks are pointing out the versions that you're yearning for, of course, had two drummers. So
I don't think that's
an important,
really the reason, though.
Part.
That's true.
Well, I mean, I think they're looking for layers there in the percussion, right?
No, yeah, it's definitely very layered.
They're adding those.
Sure, but they don't have a backing track or E drums on Dripfield.
Yes. Well, that's because Cotter's an animal, but that's another story.
Yeah, you don't need him on running up that hill either.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Okay, so going through this set, Redbird, I think this Redbird does what it kind of set out to do, which was simply be a launching pad for Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah.
And they wanted to play it in the show because they're trying to play that album as much as they can. And I do agree with you two that it's a shame that this is not being used as a jam vehicle right now, because for the longest time, it has been their most consistent jam vehicle. It always does amazing things. And it's not doing that right now, so that's kind of a bummer. But it still did some cool stuff in the 10 or so minutes that it was played. And then, of course, you get a big hunk of Dustin Hoffman in the show, which enhances every show that it's in, just like Iguana Song, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And this does have a good amount of improv in it. It could have used more, like, you know, the bigger versions that have, you know, happened. But yeah, I mean, I think this is a festival set, so we have to accept that it's a festival set, and we should actually pause and be grateful that we get this amount of improv in a festival show.
Yeah.
Like, we actually got some attempts at jamming, and then there's actually some really good jamming that comes later in the show, which is something I've been begging and calling for a while now. So yeah, Redbird, Dustin Hoffman, really good. Running Up That Hill, excellent way to walk away for set break.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we come back from the break. Second time ever, Dripfield opening the second set, after Grand Rapids. So always a great omen into This Old Sea, Factory Fiction. Let's kind of segment the set there. Isaac, what are your thoughts on these first three tunes of set two?
Love a Dripfield opener. I mean, it gets the energy moving, and even if they didn't jam it out like how they did at Grand Rapids, this is still, I think, fits the slot really well. It gets people moving. It starts off fast, and it's just a fun one to open to. It's not like a crazy jam, but it gets the energy going. And then This Old Sea, this is the second time that I've been on the pod this year that they've done Dripfield into This Old Sea. So I guess I'm a magnet for those two group booked together. So if I'm at a show, next one I go to, we'll probably get a Dripfield set two opener into This Old Sea. So
there are worse things. There are worse things on the set list to follow you around for sure.
No, definitely. And short This Old Sea too. I mean,
no jam.
It's like 4 minutes, but the last couple of ones have been great at like 20, 19 minutes. And then did we do Factory Fiction? Is that the one?
Talk about the Factory.
Yeah, my bad. So this was incredible. I love a second set Factory Fiction. I love that that they're experimenting and putting this in different spots than like the encore. Because for a while now, it has been trapped in that encore spot where it just like it hasn't been able to do a whole lot. So having this to break out in the second set is great. This jam, being in the pit for this they had the volume cranked up loud, and for Trevor, it was crushing the bass on this. The first half of this jam too is superb. It almost feels like they're gonna move into Moby a little bit. Like there's a point where it's like, okay, it's like a Moby-esque kind of jam, or like an intro to Moby kind of esque vibe. And it's just the full band's locked in. It gives off that Moby vibe, and then they cool it down, and it's really good. And the lights. One more thing, sorry, Ryan.
Yeah,
but
no, go ahead.
The Getty was incredible during this jam. In the pit, I was very pleasantly surprised with how the lights were in the pit, because there have been a couple times where I've been in the pit and it's like you can't see the lights, but I feel like I really focused on it this show, and you really had a good sense of the lights. Like he was doing the curtain thing, which was awesome, and just like looking up and seeing all the lights coming down, like cascading over you, was sick. So love that.
Yeah, I mean, the A rig in all its glory in the first proper shed show of tour. We haven't had an amphitheater like this yet. I think Guilford might be the only other shed. They're in CMAC. But so
CMAC's like a true shed. Guilford's like a little bit smaller, but yeah.
Well, this one, amphitheater, kind of seats sloping up, roof, the whole deal. So yeah, Getty had his full rig. It was great. And it was actually funny. Pigeons and Lawrence got to use the Getty rig, not all of it, but they got to use the Getty rig for their sets, which is funny. Yeah, I mean, Dripfield coming out of the gate hot, just straight ahead ripper for 13 minutes, as it does very, very well. This is the only guitar that Peter plays all night. Interesting to note. And then yeah, quick This Old Sea cool down. I kind of didn't really expect the jam here. Given that I figured they would want to highlight another song or like get, play some other material. I didn't really see them, putting a 15-minute or 20-minute This Old Sea in this slot, but was very pleasantly surprised. The Factory Fiction was a really great jam. That's the other thing we've talked about. It's like they're playing it a lot. It's always closing stuff, and the jam's not really doing much when they do play it. So now that's two in a row, Fiddlers and this, where it's being a jam vehicle. So my criticism of it's not really that special anymore because they're playing it so much. Like if they want to play this every 4 shows now and it's gonna be a jam vehicle, let's go, because obviously this is a phenomenal song. But I think if it's going to be relegated to the, oh my God, they're doing the Factory Fiction thing as the, 10-minute encore, as you said, Isaac, like we don't need that necessarily as often. So really, really happy with this jam here. Phenomenal stuff. Neil, do you have more?
I've got all kinds of thoughts. Yeah. Well, what's interesting is Goose has kind of risen to the occasion of being this big headliner at a festival in a shed. Mm-hmm. So 2 years ago, the conversation was, can Goose fill, or maybe 2.5, 3 years ago at this point, can Goose fill these arenas with his sound? And it was like, can Goose fill SPAC with their sound? And now they absolutely are doing that. And that's what this was designed to do. This Dripfield was the perfect song to come out, start the second set, absolutely just slap people in the face with just drums and bass and sound and lights, and all the things are happening all at once. Like this is Shed Goose. They can do the Shed thing. And I don't know if many jam bands could pull that off on the scale that they can. Of course, there are a few that absolutely are insane at it and maybe even better at it than Goose. But and you know who they are. I don't need to name any names, but this is what they were trying to do. They were trying to fill that venue with sound, and they absolutely did that. So that part was sick. And we can talk about the length of the Dripfield. It doesn't matter. Dripfield is still Goose's best song, or one of their 2 or 3 best songs, even with the new songs that have come in. So this was the absolute right call to open up the second set. I love it. It's brilliant. Needed to be done. Absolutely. And in fact, I can't think of any other song I'd rather they have played to start that second set, to show up and show that festival crowd exactly who they are to start that second set.
I mean, I've been seeing a lot of posts online today of people, and we have one in the chat here, which did it already go past? Yeah. Beanie Bros. This is my first Goose show, and I'm hooked. Welcome, Beanie Bros. Hell yeah. But I've been seeing a lot of chatter on the internet this morning of people who were like, I was kind of skeptical, or I didn't really like Goose, or I saw them for the first time last night. And first of all, it's amazing to me that, like there are still this many people that are getting converted, who are at a jam band festival. I feel like, I guess in my head by now, I'm assuming people, especially in an area like the East Coast, where there's a lot of shows within throwing distance. I'm kind of assuming that like anyone who's going to see Goose at this point has seen them. So it's really cool that there's still all these new fans that are like at a festival that Goose is headlining that are seeing them for the first time and getting absolutely blown away. So hell yeah.
Yeah. So continuing on my thoughts with the set here, and I agree, Ryan, but there are so many other bands to get you going to this festival.
Sure.
That, I mean, I love this kind of a lineup. So there's folks, who just wanted to see Mo. And then there was just enough other acts there to bring them to this thing, and they got a taste of something else. Or the Disco Biscuits, or Eggy, or Pigeons, or, there's just so much that happened over the course of these 2 days.
Yeah.
So of course they do Dripfield. I've said all the things about Dripfield, and then they do the other thing that Goose can do immediately after. This is so brilliantly crafted. It's great. Yeah. They just bring it down. This Old Sea. That's a weird slot for This Old Sea. The second song of the second set, and it's a ballad that they're only going to play for 5 minutes. But they do the thing. They say like, hey, by the way, we have the best singer in jam music right now, and we're going to sing a tearjerker right after our giant number, right? Mm-hmm. And I love that. Brilliant. Again. And then, of course, we go right from that into Factory Fiction, which is, I think, a great call here. Like Isaac said, this not being an encore or closing a second set or whatever really gives it room to be what it could, can, and always should have been, which is a jammer. This song, probably back in the day, I don't know, I haven't listened to old Vizzuta versions of it, but I'm sure they used to absolutely rage this one back in the day. It's got all the constituent elements of an excellent jammer, right? It's got kind of that beginning section, has like a beautiful jam built into the middle of it, and then it has big like finish, the ending section, which is like big and theatrical and all of this stuff. And of course, they take this thing right into the dirt, get it nice and grimy, and just kind of grind with that kind of growly tone. And then you kind of go a little Type Ted for a minute there, which like folks are like, sounded like Dragonfly, sounded a little bit like Moby. And that's the good stuff. And this is what we've wanted Factory Fiction to do forever. They finally just came out and actually really jammed it. Mm-hmm. So Ryan today said, I haven't responded to this comment yet. Ryan said, Neil's going to be mad because I'm putting this Factory Fiction on my playlist. No, I'm not. I'm excited. I'm excited they
good.
finally played a Factory Fiction worth putting on a playlist.
I
And
just didn't know
for
if
what it's
you
worth.
agree.
I was an opponent of them putting it on their playlist when they did it at Red Rocks. I found the Red Rocks version to not be remarkable.
So last night's Factory Fiction, best since Bingo Tour?
Yes. Hot take.
I don't think that's hot take. I think that's nice little hasty train.
Yeah. Woo.
Yeah, there we go. That's good. Yeah, I mean, really, really happy about the jam. And as you mentioned, the grime. All about the grimy Goose. But yeah, Garrett also points out the original second set was supposed to be Dripfield, Mist, Factory, This Old Sea. And once again,
Serendipity.
2025 Goose crushing the audibles. Like they have crushed every single audible, letting go of that. We wrote a set and we need to abide by the set that was kind of plaguing, I think, the latter half of 2024 at times. So hell yeah, like just drop the Factory Fiction.
And one more thing about this.
Yes.
One more thing about this Factory is I feel like the sky is the limit for Factory. I feel like this is just like the bottom. We are just on the ground for Factory. I feel like that they have a lot more they can do in this, and that'll be incredible.
100%.
Hey, the best jam they played in 2020 was Factory Fiction.
It didn't win
at Bingo Tour, in my opinion. That's my favorite jam.
Yeah,
and they have not reached those heights since. They have proven that they can reach those heights, so they should continue to try.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. Next up, Isaac, let's go to the second half of the second set. We get a little Seeger action, Hollywood Nights into Fast Slow, and then Factory Fiction. A little Goons action, if you will. Isaac, what do you think of the second half of set 2 here?
I love this Hollywood Nights placement because I feel like we had the jamming. Like I was satisfied with that jam in Factory Fiction, and it didn't feel like it was. It didn't feel like they went into it too early. It feels like they were pretty patient with it and just kind of let it ride out. I was kind of worried after they had gotten out of that TED type of space in that factory that they were gonna like rip into something, and they took it out and they played a little bit more before they did. And this Hollywood Nights incredible for the vibes. The vibes were through the roof during this, and I love this because it was so much fun when they played this, and I feel like it did what it needed to do. It was perfect. And then Fast Slow with the drone show too, which I
didn't know about until this afternoon when I saw pictures of it.
Yeah, we saw it from the pit. If you turned it, but you couldn't see what it said, so it was kind of confusing. It was like, oh, there's drones, but it's like, what are they saying? So it felt a little.
I saw a post on Blue Sky from very trusted news source Madison Huvon that the drone said "Dawn" is a song.
Yeah,
very trusted news source.
Very trusted.
Yeah.
But yeah. So it felt like a strange venue for a drone show because if you're not on the lawn, you don't have you don't have a great viewing of them. So it was a little bit strange, but I saw some videos of it. It was really sick and it was cool. And then Fast Slow. I'm a big fan of this new one. I love the Goons. This is awesome.
Yeah.
And this feels like I think the best Fast Slow that they played. I haven't delved too deep into those, but this feels like it's like mixed with the sauce. This feels really nice, and I love this.
Yeah, I think they did a little more with the Fast Slow this time rather than just going straight ahead into that, the quote unquote country royale.
Just commit to it. Just call it the country royale jam.
I'm going to put quotes around it.
Okay,
but yeah, that kind of jam that they've done the last couple of versions. But yeah, this was great. Cotter once again building just amazing drops in every Goons jam. And then I mean, putting that in between Hollywood and the ending of Factory. I mean, again, Factory, Hollywood, Fast Slow, Factory, another incredible segment of Goose.
Yes. You get the perfect amount of jamming and then the vibes. It's amazing. Yeah. It's like it's right in the middle. It's not too much jamming. And then it's not like a bunch of vibes. So I love this segment.
Yeah. Neil, what are your thoughts on last night's Goons?
On the Goons? Well, I love it. I mean, it's an excellent thing. It has yet to provide. Well, actually, no. The tumble from the other night actually feels like that's meaningful improv. It's just like a segment of a show, if you will, meant to liven up the audience for a while there. They were kind of leaning on disco songs, and kind of doing it that way. But this, I mean, it does everything that you need to happen late in a show. It gets everybody up, gets everybody moving. Sometimes people jump I don't know. I'm a jumper when I hear the
You're-
fast slow.
So far, you have been.
I have been. I've only seen one version live. I can't wait to see another. I'm seeing 6 straight, so I'm bound to see one over that time, maybe even 2 if we're lucky. Well, not 6 straight. I'm
Well,
seeing
a good
6
as good friend Mark Comito said to me this morning, we need fast slow at MSG. I'll bring the house down.
Yeah, or like I don't know, just more Goons in general. I think any amount of
Just
Goons
play
is good.
Goons.
It doesn't have to be fast slow.
Yeah,
They've proven that at this point that they're like, oh, we played fast slow. I mean, okay, hold on. We have to back up the Goons thing now. Since we're on the Goons topic, I have to step outside of the show for a minute and talk about the Goons. So the people have demanded a Goons playlist. So they want to know what the Goons is. And it's been around forever. So you go back to the first versions of Slow Ready in 2019.
Yeah, Slow Ready.
And
Original
so
Goons.
that is they've always done the Goons. They've always been
Genesis.
kind of into it. They've always been scratching the surface or curious about the Goons.
Goons
And then
curious?
Goons curious. And then so they move up to 2023. Of course, they have this relationship with LPGOB, and they kind of trade songs. LPGOB starts doing Goose songs. She did Arrow, and then she did, I don't know, a bunch of other
She's
ones.
done a lot
And
now. Yeah.
then they kind of did the All I Need kind of swap remix thing. And then they played All I Need at Leader Bank Pavilion in Boston. I was there for that one. Sick. So that was even more of a commitment to the Goons. We didn't know it at the time. It was just kind of a one-off thing. And then, of course, now, since Mexico, we're just really diving head. Well, actually, no. Since Goose Mess, we've been diving in head first. I think they played Marball, and they were like, whoa.
Yeah, like
we gotta
wait
do
a
that
minute.
again.
Yeah.
But like, we
I
can't
think
do
also-
that again.
What were you saying?
Their time with the Disco Biscuits too, with Foie Gras, I think that really kind of opened some doors for them. I think a lot of stuff has opened the doors for them too.
Yeah,
at
and
these
I
shows,
think-
like Goose Miss has got some crazier set list choices. That is awesome, and then Foie Gras has gotten them into more jamming.
Yep, and I think, you know, the presence of Cotter in the band. Cotter is a fan of this type of music. He's seen dozens of Disco Biscuit shows, so we've heard that he's B4L. And we believe Brownie when he says that. I don't think he says things like that lightly. He doesn't take people in like that unless he really means it. I don't know. I'm just making this up. But in any case, so that is the progression of the Goons. If you want the Goons playlist, I've posted it on the internet, on Blue Sky. I can put it in other places too, I'm sure.
We'll get it on.
You should go check it out if you really want to soak in what this is. And I think where they put this into shows, it always causes the crowd to erupt. We saw it with Marball. We've seen it every version of Fast Slow. We've seen it with the Tumble the other night. We saw it with the Psycho Killer Echo of a Rose Jam the other night. I mean, it's just amazing stuff that they're doing.
Yeah.
So absolutely love the Goons. And again, it's a weird thing to say because I think we stand around here, Ryan, and we say, well, they're not jamming enough, or this doesn't go deep enough, and they're not doing it here. And I still love it. I'm eating it up. It rules. And I've experienced it live. And if you haven't experienced it live, go to a Goose show and experience it live because it's fantastic.
We should get a Nugs Goons 101 playlist up in the.
I have created the playlist. It exists.
We'll talk to some people. I think we do need to add. Now that I think about it, we need to add. I think the 31022 missed to that.
I think that's fair.
Yeah,
I think it's fair. See, I was looking for feedback.
We'll workshop it.
Yeah. Okay.
This is a Goons playlist. It will be a living playlist. We will share it more.
Are we talking about the entry back into Factory Fiction? Have we talked about this yet?
We haven't yet, but it's amazing.
Absolutely sick. It did everything that it needed to do. Of course, Fast Slow kind of comes to this gigantic peak at the end, and then like segue of amazingness into the end of Factory Fiction, which of course is this big kind of huge ending. Excellent way to end the show.
And this was the absolute perfect way to close the show, where it's just you have that energy coming back from Factory. It's like the riff. It's the riff at the end. I mean, it just ends on like such a high note. Like that's awesome. Love that every time they do it, and especially to close the show. Another thing, I'm a big fan of no encore here. It made the set flow so much better, where I feel like sometimes they get trapped with like, oh no, we have to have time for an encore.
Right, we have to end, walk off, walk on, play Love Light.
And I think there originally was Encore Madhavan on the set list.
Listen, they weren't getting to all that.
No, that was a very ambitious set list.
Yeah.
So I love that there's no encore and that they can just kind of go with the flow, and it made the flow of the set so much better than I think if they had an encore, this set wouldn't have been as good as we would have.
100%. And you still get that Factory Fiction in the closer role that they like.
Yeah.
But we had 20 minutes of it earlier that was very jammy and nice. Let's talk about this Soundcheck jam. Now that we've wrapped up the show proper, we're going to backtrack several hours. Is towards the end of the Keller set. We kind of went in to the amphitheater, saw that Goose was on stage, and they started playing. And anyone was there. There was a crowd, probably several hundred people who were in the pavilion at that time, taking in the Soundcheck. Played nice 20-minute jam here. I was getting antsy towards the end. I was like, they need to wrap this up because Eggy starts in 5 minutes, and I don't want to miss Eggy, but I'm also not leaving this very exciting opportunity to watch Goose Soundcheck. And it's just like first thing in the morning, just really laid back grooves for a lot of this. And it's the patience and that kind of like, we're not playing a show. There's no reason to do stuff. A lot of very textural Rick. But this is a phenomenal listen. And based on previous precedent set by the Soulshine 2024 Soundcheck, that was also open and attended by lots of people and released on Nugs.
I don't know about lots. But...
Okay, it was attended by people and the band released it, and it's a very cool jam. If you haven't listened to that in a long time, 5/26/24, I believe. There is a Rockdale and a jam after that are both great. It's the first instance of the sauce. But based on that,
can we pause for a second? Because I just want to say a thing. So just so folks get an idea of what Goose Soundcheck is like, this is typical of Goose Soundcheck. So there is usually it starts with a jam. I guess like you're talking about Soulshine. It started with a Rockdale and then a jam, but
I think it was jam into rock. Regardless,
yeah. So like usually they just come on the stage and then they just start to do a freeform jam. So this is typical of a Goose Soundcheck. This is not like out of the ordinary. Of course, our ears don't ever get to hear this because it's not usually done in front of people. So sorry, go ahead. Continue on with what you were saying.
But it is not eligible for the bracket based on the fact that it was a sound check and not a show. Whether regardless of people being there, it's very exciting when we get to experience such a thing. But it is not eligible for the Jam of the Year bracket.
I can't believe we just spent about 2.5 minutes talking about that. But okay.
Have you met this podcast before, Neil?
I'm on this podcast.
Do you know what we do here?
Yeah. I digress. This is sick, and it is, nothing truly groundbreaking in terms of jam, but like I love these Soundcheck jams. I wish we got more of them because I will listen to even the most mundane of these because they're just, it's just Goose.
I don't think they're mundane at all.
Well, that's
what were your thoughts? What were your thoughts on getting to see this Soundcheck, Isaac?
I mean, I missed the Soundcheck because I was grabbing a spot for Eggy. I listened to it back and it's awesome. It's mellow, it's chill, laid back. It's a nice sense of like it's a good starter for what's gonna come tonight. It's sick. But yeah, I didn't get to hear it in person, so I don't have as many slots as I wish. But I think it was worth it because we had a great spot for Eggy. So and I don't think we would have had that spot if
thanks for holding it down.
Oh, no problem.
Yeah, I mean, you get a lot of reverse delay from Rick. He actually does like a trick with the reverse delay that ends in like, I don't know, like it ends up in like a guitar line somehow. I don't know how he did it. He was just like twisting. He must have been on his knees twisting knobs. I haven't seen video of this. But,
a lot of knob. I posted a 6-minute video on the Always Almost There Instagram yesterday. If anyone wants to see what this looked like.
I have not had an opportunity to look at that yet. But otherwise, yeah, this is just a cool however many minutes of jamming. Definitely worth checking out. Certainly didn't need to spend 2.5 minutes talking about how it's not eligible for the bracket because the jam is not good enough for it.
You'd be surprised.
But still.
It's not that the jam isn't good enough. This would 100% appear on my playlist somewhere.
Yeah. Well,
but
I mean, you can put it on your playlist if you want, folks.
It will get removed in the seating process. Is my point.
You can keep your own playlists for your listening pleasure. Ryan cannot stop you from doing that.
Unfortunately, I can't.
Cannot.
There's no power in Nugs yet to go in and be like if your playlist title contains Goose Jam of the Year or something to that effect, it won't let you add Chateau or Soundchecks.
Yes.
It's part of the new update.
Yeah.
Oh,
rebrand. Yeah. I'm just kidding. But if you haven't updated your Nugs app, update it.
Oh my God.
Check out the Jam of the Year.
All
right. That brings us to the close of this. Neil, there's one more show on this tour before you see 6 of them, which is very exciting.
Yeah. That's really
here in
exciting.
Wilmington tomorrow.
Big deal.
It's going to be fun. Back outside at a nice riverside venue. This is the site of the monsoon show for fish in 2023. So knock on wood, hopefully the weather is better here tomorrow.
It's the
And we will be
same
back.
town as
Same town.
the dog show, but not the same venue.
Yes. Yeah, when Goose played here in 2022, it was, people have said, some of the hottest weather they've ever experienced. And there was a dog on stage during Rosewood.
Yeah.
Also,
And there's
not a
gators in the
very
lake.
good show.
I heard Peter said there's gators in the lake.
There's gators in the lake. And then they play Time to Flute to start the show.
Yep.
All right. Well, Isaac, always a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
Of
I
course.
love being on here.
Thank you for coming.
Always great having you on, Isaac. You've been on more Day After shows officially now, as of this moment, than Jive Goose. So kudos to you.
Let's go.
There you go. Well, everybody, thank you for tuning in for this primetime Monday night Day After show. We'll be back on Wednesday afternoon. I'll be in Pittsburgh getting ready for an Eggy show. But excited to see what Goose does tomorrow night before we head back up to Ohio later this week. It's going to be good. Tour continues and streams are back tomorrow, which is great. So we will see you on Wednesday afternoon to recap tomorrow night in Wilmington. Everybody enjoy your night. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time. Peace.